few minutes late. Okay, so Shalom Aleichem to Aryeh and Meira, and to Zahava, and to whoever else is joining us. Of course, my mother, who's now traveling in South Africa, and Avital, and Yael, and Katie, and everyone else, and David, everyone else who joined us. We're starting a new lesson today, Bezat Hashem Ayin Hey, which is 75. And so this is part of the lessons of the Chaverim, of the Hasidim that wrote down the lesson, and Reb Nassim then came back later and included Likutey Moharan. And then he writes, and this is already Zion, I think it's in Chet. If you go, that's where we're going to start. So after we have this whole long lesson here, which is what happened last time, he says, the Cheve wrote it down really nicely, but they left out all kinds of things, and I'm going to clarify it. Now, last time, I hadn't prepared all the way to the end, because some of these lessons are long. I don't get a chance to read them to the end. But this time I was moving along, and then I see he says, and they left out lots of things, so I'm just going to start from there this time, as opposed to last time. And, the Likutey Moharan, it's like, you probably saw the movie Forrest Gump. I don't know if you've seen Forrest Gump. It's a great movie. I forced my kids, when they were a little younger, to watch a few movies. My older religious kids refused to watch movies ever again after that. That's probably Koach. I hope he's been fasting. I hope he's doing okay. Koach, you here? Shalom Aleichem. How you feeling?
All right.
Okay, good.
Yep.
You're standing.
Yeah.
So,
10 days straight so far.
Unbelievable. It's been fasting for 10 days. Are you drinking water?
Yeah.
I can pour some water for you?
No, it's all right. I just drink.
Okay. So in the movie Forrest Gump, so I had a whole list of movies I wanted my kids to see before they left the house. Forrest Gump, I think most of them watched. I got them to watch Mozart. What's Amadeus it was called. Amadeus. And then that was it. They were like, we're not watching any more movies. I think, maybe some of the younger kids, well, for sure the younger kids, they watch movies, but Forrest Gump has this famous line, life is like a box of chocolate, never know what you're going to get. That's how he talks. And so the Likutey Moharan is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. We go into the next lesson. He starts off with all this Kabbalistic stuff and breaking the vessels and Maim Nukvin, and I'm like, what is he talking about? But then when I piece it all together, what a beautiful lesson. Okay, so that's where we're starting today. That was my revelation at work today. When I was preparing the lesson, that first it was very confusing, and then it came together, Baruch Hashem. So we're starting, did you find it? We're probably on Chet, where you are. V'gam zot ha-Torah, halashon eino metukan u'mesupar klal. You see that?
We don't have OT, but I'll try and find it.
Okay. So you'll see there should be some type of break. It starts again with a quote. Yivarchenu Elokim v'yu oto kol afsei haaretz. That's the quote that we're working from. And he says here, V'katav Rab Nosson Zav, and Rab Nosson wrote, Gam zot Torah, also this Torah, just like the previous Torah, alashon eino metukan v'mesudar klal, is not organized and properly given over. V'gam chaser obei, and also lots of things are missing. V'kol asher matzah yadi la'avin meidvarim elu be'ezer Hashem yitbarach, and everything that I was able to find and to give over and to understand, to distinguish and understand and give over be'ezat Hashem, uchrachti lachzor v'lechtavam b'ma'adora tinyana v'zeu. Did you find that yet? You want me to see if I can find it quickly?
No, it's okay.
Okay. So he says, I was forced to go back, or, I wanted to go back and make a second version of this lesson, and this is the lesson. Rabbeinu Zal potech pasuk. So Rabbi Nachman opens up with the verse, V'yivarchem Elokim Yehu Oto Kol Afsei Haaretz. This is from Tehillim. May Hashem bless us, let us fear Him until the ends of the earth. So he's going to take this, Yivarchenu Elokim V'yu Oto Kol Afsei Haaretz. He's going to break it down in a Hasidic way. I don't understand Yael's quote. I'm not a smart man, Jenny, but I know what love is. I have no idea what that...
That's in Forrest Gump.
Oh, I knew that was coming from... Thank you. Okay, cultural references.
That's when she tells him that his son, that's his son.
Oh, right. Okay. Don't give everything away, Amir. I didn't see the movie yet. Okay.
Oh. I'm sorry.
Yeve'er me'echan ba midat hanitzachon. So this, I'm reading, with the Perush, but most of it is the actual text here. Like most of what we're going to learn is the text that's written there. He's going to explain the idea of midat hanitzachon ba'adam, this need to win or be the strong person, ve'ech mitgabrim aleh, and how do we overcome that? So now we're on Aleph in the second part. I don't know how it's listed in your book. Ki yesh ba'adam mesha'at leidato. Because there's a person from the time that they were born, midat, nitzachon, ve'amachloket, u'milchama. There's this feeling inside a person, the attribute of wanting to win and to fight and to take over. U'midah zot ba, Meidamim she'adayin lo avad behem et Hashem yitbarach. And this attribute comes from the blood in the body that did not yet serve Hashem. Ki ikar midat nitzachon u me'adamim. Because the main attribute of wanting nitzachon, meaning to be victorious, comes from the blood. Kemo shekatav, as it's written, Pore darachti levadi me'amim ein ish iti ve'adarchem ba'api ve'aramsem bechamati. Now this is from Yeshayahu, and there's no explanation for here, but something like I made the path on my own, and from the nations that didn't have... I'm not sure. It's kind of confusing for me. Even though I did look it up, I didn't write down the translation. V'yesh nitzcham. It's okay because it's going to make sense now. V'yein. Well, that's interesting. Yesh nitzcham al begadi perush Rashi ki nitzcham hu damim. And this is the whole point. Here, that when it says nitzcham, their victory, it comes from blood. So he's saying that this is the blood in the body that hasn't been elevated yet to serve Hashem. And you know, when a human being begins life, they're just basically blood. There's skin, there's, I don't know, some organs begin to be formed, but it's mainly blood. And also most of the body, I think most of the body is blood. Kihem tokfo v'nitzchono shel ha'adam, because this is the power and the eternal characteristic of a human being. Ki ha'nitzchon ba me'adamim, because the victory or power comes from the blood. Now, there's a reason he's saying this, but it'll make sense hopefully by the time we get to the end of the lesson tonight. And everybody has to nullify this attribute of wanting to fight and be victorious, and to chase after or to pursue peace. Because the sages of blessed memory said, Lo matza kadosh baruch hu kli machazik bracha ela shalom. Hashem didn't find any vessel to hold his blessing other than shalom, other than peace. So if we want to receive Hashem's real abundance, when we're living in peace, that's when we can receive it. If we're living in war or a feeling of lack or anything like that, then we don't have shalom. And of course, shalom is connected to shalem, which is complete. So we don't have this completeness, and we don't have a full vessel to bring down all of Hashem's abundance. You want to ask something?
So
quick?
What about in Noah, he put down his bow and he promised not to destroy the world again with water.
Right, with the flood.
That was something that was a pretty big thing, and it's encompassed within the
But what's the question?
rainbow.
Is there a question?
Well, you said that the only thing that could hold his
Blessing is shalom.
But he blessed the world with a promise not to destroy it with water.
Okay, he can destroy it in other ways.
But
there isn't shalom in the world, that's for sure.
No, there's not.
Right? And there probably isn't shalom in most people's lives either. There's turbulence, and there's inner battles, and there's a sense of lack. You're missing this, you're missing that. So, but he says that's the only way to have the proper vessel to receive Hashem's light is to have shalom. Shana Amar, as it said in Tehillim, Hashem oz la'amo yiten, Hashem yivarech et amo b'shalom. Hashem gives strength to His nation, and He will bless His nation with shalom. V'zeh zochim al yedei sheyedaber harbei Torah utfilah. And how does a person merit to reach this place of receiving Hashem's blessing and receiving shalom? By speaking lots of words of Torah and lots of words of davening. Ve'al yedei zeh yizkeh shalom. And through this, a person will merit to have shalom, to have peace. Ki ksheyesh machloket, because when there's strife, tzrichim la'asot shalom, we have to make peace. V'zeh ha'oseh shalom hu b'chinat he'elat mayin nukvin. And a person that makes peace is connected to this idea of elevating the female waters. This is something that I spent a lot of time going over to clarify mayin nukvim, because it can be confusing. It's not connected to female in the physical sense. We're talking about when you elevate Mayim Nukvin is related to desire, Ratzon, and Ahava, and love. And when you elevate that, then you bring down the Shefa. You bring down Hashem Shefa. And what that means in the simplest terms is that when a person is broken and they cry out to Hashem, that's the Mayin Nukvin. And when Hashem answers, that's what they receive from elevating these female waters. Ha'elat Mayim Nukvim, the elevating the female waters, Shezel B'chinat Ishtokekut V'Ahava, which is connected to desire and love. Sha'mekabel Hu B'chinat Nekeva. The one that receives is an aspect of female. Ma'ale betchila el hamashpia v'hu b'chinat zachar. You say something, you daven, you learn Torah. That elevates it to the mashpia, which is the one that brings down the shefa, the abundance, and that's called zachar, is masculine. V'al yedei zeh hamashpia mashpia lo shefa. And through this, Hashem, who's the mashpia, the one that can bring down the shefa, brings down the shefa, which is abundance. V'kevan sheba'asiyat shalom malbim ha'ava. And since when we make peace, it increases love. Lachein yesh kan b'chinat mayin nukvin. Then we have an aspect of female water. So this idea of mayim nukvim is the human awakening, an effort from below, a cry of the heart. And when we cry out and we send our prayer up to Hashem, it creates a vessel for Hashem to bring down His abundance. Because when a person falls into whatever problems they have in this world, and this is connected to strife, because his heart is split and doesn't understand what's going on, because it seems like there's a contradiction in the world or within themselves, and one thing contradicts the other. So, whenever we look at something, we say, well, how could this thing happen? How can this happen to me? How can this happen to somebody else? That's what he's talking about. We all have this internal war within ourselves, and when we get there, we question, how can this make any sense? V'aterush hu b'chinat ha'oseh shalom. And the terutz, and the answer is connected to the one that makes peace. Ki al yedei ha-terutz hu oseh shalom ben ha-devrim ha-nirim kechalukim v'sotrim zeh et zeh. What is the peace that we receive? When we receive an answer from Hashem, when we cry out to Hashem, we ask Hashem, why did you do this to me, or why did you do this to somebody else? And we eventually get the answer because we get some type of understanding why this could be. Then we have peace within ourselves because the parts within ourselves that were battling one another are no longer fighting one another because things now make sense to us. V'zeu b'chinat he'elat mayin nukvin. And this is the meaning of raising up the female waters. So we started off with this idea of raising up female waters, and now we know that when we say to Hashem, why did you do this specific thing to me? I've had all kinds of things like this, and in the past, I used to just ask, why did you do this to me? And I didn't try to figure out why. But at some point, I had enough times that Hashem clearly showed me why something happened to me, that at some point, I knew to look for the reason that Hashem did this to me. And many times I would say, at this time, right now, I don't know why Hashem is doing this to me, but I will know one day. And I think every time, I don't think there's been anything that ever happened to me, at least in my adult life, that I can't say, now I know why. And that brings a lot of resolution, peace, inner peace. It's like when you're watching a movie or reading about some character, and did you see this show, Shtisel? Did you ever watch? I couldn't watch more than the first season because they tortured the main character with him falling in love with all these women that he couldn't be with, and this went wrong for him, and this went wrong for him, and I was like, oh God, you can't do this to the main character. But you're always hoping for that main character that things will work out, that he's going to marry that woman, that he's going to have his dream, he's going to have what he wants, and that's the resolution that we get inside of us when the fighting parts that say, this doesn't make sense, I don't understand why, how could Hashem do this? And then when it does make sense, you say, oh, I get it. Now we've learned in other lessons that everything that Hashem does is for the good. Either it's for fixing something that we did wrong, or it's for bringing us to a place where we can see something greater in the future. And if you're aware of this, so you're always looking for it. If you know, why did Hashem make me lose money in this place? It was so that Hashem could teach me how to make money even in a better way in this place. I had I'll give you an example. I don't have the final answer for it yet, but I feel like it's coming, B'ezrat Hashem. Across the hall from me in Binyan Klal, I've been in my office in Binyan Klal, I think since 2000, since our firstborn, since Alma was born. And back then it was 300 shekels a month, and the building was abandoned, and nobody wanted to be there. Now I'm paying like 2,000 shekels a month, which I'm not very happy about. And still the building is disgusting and abandoned, well, not so much, well, it used to be. Anyhow, at one point, I don't even remember, 15 years ago, maybe it was longer, this guy knocks on my door and he says, I'm selling all the offices in the hallway here. You want to buy this, 20,000 shekels across the hall. It's like a big office. Now it's rented out to the train, it's their call center. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not going to waste 20,000 shekels on this disgusting office. It's a waste of money, and I'll have to pay the arnona, and nobody's going to rent it, and what am I going to do? So I didn't buy it. Somebody else obviously bought it, and then eventually the train moved in, and they rented the whole floor, except for my office and a few other offices, and that turned into their call center. And I once went to this mekubelet, and she looks at my palm and she scribbles on paper and looks in heaven, and she was very accurate. Everything she said was, by the way, very accurate. She said, you had the chance to be very wealthy, because I wanted to buy lots of property. I kept saying to Noga, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, but I was scared to take out the money. And she said, but that's it, the opportunity is gone. So now every day I pass by that office since that time. And the guy who was selling it, he was like begging me. He's like, this, you don't understand. This is a gift. Just buy it. Take a loan and buy it. I didn't even call the bank to ask for a loan. And also my own office, which I could have paid. It was selling for peanuts, nothing, and I didn't want to buy it. Someone else bought it, and then someone else bought it. And in the meantime, I'm still paying rent. Okay, so I would say to Hashem, why? And then I would have a business. I had businesses over the years. Some of them were very successful, like for me. And I would look at the office and say, well, if I had the office, I wouldn't be doing this business. Because I would say, I'm getting now 20,000 shekels a month in rent. I'm very happy with that, and I don't need anything else. So Hashem obviously didn't want me to have that. He wanted me to have something better. So I let go of the jealousy of whoever bought that office, and now I look for the thing that's better. So that's how the resolution comes. That's why I'm giving this example. That's raising the waters. Now, raising the waters is also offering a prayer to Hashem, saying to Hashem, Hashem, help me. Even though your prayer might not be complete, even though you might not be on such a high spiritual level, still that creates a vessel for receiving Hashem's abundance. Ki kshenofel la'adam eze kushia b'bchinat, that we just read. Okay. Ki ikar b'chinat he'alat mayin nukvin. The main idea of raising the female waters, u'b'chinat ishtokakut va'ava, is connected to desire and love. Hameorer echad legabe chavero, one that raises up the other. Kagon she'adam mishtokek la'Hashem yitbarach o lintzor tzaddik amiti. Like when a person desires to come closer to Hashem or to travel to a true tzaddik, v'zeu b'chinat he'elat mayin nukvin, and this is an aspect of elevating the female waters. Hainu b'bchina shel mata hamitoreret ba'ava klapei mala. That is this desire down below that has a love that goes up to above. So, a person says, Hashem, I want to experience a higher Shabbos. Yes, I keep everything I'm supposed to do on Shabbos, but I'm not really feeling Shabbos. I want to feel super, super high Shabbos. So that is the ishtokakut, that's the desire from down below, and that allows Hashem to send down the abundance to give you a higher spiritual Shabbos. She'alidei zeh mitchabrim umitkashrim laHashem yitbarach ve'letzadikav. That through this a person connects themselves to Hashem and his tzaddikim. Nimtza, it follows, shezeh ha'oseh shalom, that the one that makes peace, שמכניס אהבה בלב כל אחד לגבי חברו, that puts love into a person's heart, each person for their friend, ומקרבים יחד, and מקרבם יחד, and brings them closer to one another, ועושה שלום ביניהם, and brings peace between them, זהו בחינת העלת מים נוקבים. This is an aspect of raising up the female waters. ולפעמים זה השלום עושה שלום במקום אחר. And sometimes the one who makes peace can make peace in another place. והוא בחינת העלת מים נוקבים למקום אחר. And this is the idea of raising up the female waters in another place. וכל הדיבורים שמדברים בתורה ותפילה, and all the words of davening and prayer that we say, הם בחינת העלת מים נוקבים כידוע. They're an aspect of raising up the female waters as is known. Right? What we're doing by learning Torah and saying the words of davening is creating a vessel to receive Hashem's abundance, but it's also sending a message up in order to receive back from Hashem. Or to put it in simpler ways, my kids come and say, Tati, can I have 10 shekels? I have to go buy milk. And I give them 10 shekels. It's that simple. That's basically what he's saying. He says you ask Hashem. Now it doesn't mean that Hashem is going to give you. Hey Hashem, I need $5 million in my bank account. And Hashem's not going to say, oh, here you go. Because that's not how Hashem created the world. And you would have nothing to work for. If you needed it for whatever reason, Hashem would send it to you. But the idea when my kids come and they say, can I have 10 shekels because I need to go buy this, and I just give it to them, if they didn't ask me for it, they wouldn't have created a vessel to receive it. But by saying the words out loud and saying to me, I need 10 shekels and I need it for this, then I put my hand in my pocket and I give them something that they didn't have before. And this is an analogy for what Hashem is doing. When we daven to Hashem, we elevate these female waters. That's sending our words of davening and learning up to Hashem. And then Hashem says, okay, now I can send down something to you. Ki השכינה הקדושה, שהיא ספירת מלכות, מתפארת לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא בתורה ותפילה של ישראל. Because the holy Shechina, which is connected to Malchut, and Malchut, of course, is the lowest of all the attributes and receives from them all, and is also the female energy, beautifies itself in front of Hashem with the words of Torah and davening of the Jewish people. V'hi megala b'kach et ha'ishtokakut v'ahava lihitiyached imo. And what is the Shechina doing when it beautifies itself in front of Hashem? It reveals the longing and the love of the Jewish people to unite with Hashem, to come closer to Hashem. And that's how Hashem and the Shechina become unified. Hashem is the all-powerful. The Shechina is Hashem's presence in this world. And when we cry out to Hashem and say, Hashem, I need help, or thank you for what you gave me, or whatever it is, that creates the unity of the Shechina and Hashem, which is why Hashem created this world. V'azai Shechina mekabelet shefa v'hamashpia oto leolam. Then the Shechina receives abundance and is able to bring that abundance into the world. In the same analogy that I told you about my kids asking for the money, so my kids could say, here, I called out to Hashem and I received abundance in this world. If we just took the same action and put it into the words that Rabbi Nachman is using. Shehu b'chinat shalom. And this is an attribute of peace. Ba'olamot elyonim, in the supernal worlds. Kamo shekatuv, as is written, Borei niv sfatayim shalom. The one that creates the movement of the lips is the one that makes peace. And there's a reason that he's bringing the quote of movement of the lips, because when we move our lips in davening and learning, then we allow Hashem to bring shalom into the world. Hadibur hayotze me'asfatayim, that through the speech that comes out of our lips, naaseh b'chinat shalom, is made the attribute of peace. Okay, so now we're on the next section here. We're just going to do this if we have time for it. Yivaer ketzad al yedei shalom nivret kol habriya. Is now going to explain that through making peace, all of creation is made. V'zeh yikar tikun ha'briya kamo shekatuv, and this is the main fixing of the creation of the world, as it's written, Oseh shalom uborei et hakol. Hashem is the one that makes peace and who creates everything. Ki b'sha'at bri'a naflu olamot lamata. In the time the world was created, or I guess existence was created, the worlds fell down below. V'alidei shvirat kelim, and through the breaking of the vessels, kayadua, as it's known, sha'eta b'tchilat habriya, that was in the beginning of creation, sha'arot shen hasfirot hayu yoter gedolim me'akelim shelehem. That now he's explaining shvirat kelim, that the light that was made for the vessels was greater than the vessels can handle. And through this the vessels were broken. And the holy sparks fell down below. And they're mixed up into all of the physical things in the world. So what the idea of Shvirat HaKelim we've spoken about many times. An analogy of Shvirat HaKelim is trying to put a waterfall in cups. So you take this massive waterfall and try to put it in the cups. We would say we arrange thousands of cups, and then we say, okay, waterfall in the cups. The cups are going to break, they're going to split, they're going to be knocked over, and the water from the waterfall is going to go all over the place. And now our job is to take every drop of the waterfall and gently and slowly put it back in its place. That's Shvirat HaKelim, and that's the tikkun of Shvirat HaKelim, of putting it back. And how do we do that? We do it through our free will, by choosing to keep mitzvot, by choosing to daven, by choosing to learn Torah. That's returning the light back into the vessels, and back to Hashem. V'olamot im b'chinat otiyot, and the worlds are connected to letters, because Hashem creates all the worlds with letters. V'nit pazru v'nit chalku lekama nitzatzot, and they were broken up and split up into different sparks. V'yalidei ha'alat ha'mayim nukvin shel Torah tefillah, and by elevating the female waters by davening and learning, that is when a person davens or learns Torah here in this world below. When a person learns Torah and davens down below, they give pleasure. They raise up that pleasure, the spiritual pleasure, up to Hashem from down below, and that's called elevating the female waters. And different combinations are made from the letters and the sparks that a person elevates through raising up the female waters. מפורזים בדברים הגשמיים בעולם הזה מהניצוצות נעשים אותיות ונעשה עולם. And then we take those physical things that are in this world and the sparks that are inside the letters of the things that are created in this world, and from that we create a world. וזהו בחינת שלום, and this is connected to peace. כי קודם שמכניס אלו הניצוצות והאותיות toch diborei Torah tefillah, before we can put the sparks and the letters and the words of Torah and davening, ein lehem shum tzeruf chibur. There's no connection whatsoever. It's just like the magnets of letters that are in a box. They don't make any sense until you put them on the refrigerator and start lining them up in some order. V'hem b'chinat shvarim u'machloket, and this is connected to breaking and strife or dispute. Ki kol nitzotz mitgaber al chavero, because every spark overcomes the other spark. Ukshemachnisam el dibo dikdusha, and when a person takes these letters and uses them in their mouth through holy speaking, heim mitzalfam umechabram, they connect them and also connect them. They bring new permutations, new combinations, and they connect them. Shazel b'chinat shalom. This is the attribute of peace. Ki al yedei adibo dikdusha shem Torah v'tfilah naaseh ha'alat mayim nukvin. By davening and learning Torah, you use the words and the letters, you elevate the letters through the female waters, שהניצוצות מתחברים ועולים, that the letters come together and they go up. ועל ידי זה נעשה שלום כנ"ל, and this is how peace is made. Meaning, peace in the world is made through us learning Torah and through davening. ועל ידי זה נתקנין ונתחדשין כל העולמות הנפולים. So, Rabbi Nachman has this idea of something naful, something that's fallen. We have fallen fears, fallen simcha, fallen emunah, and fallen worlds. Meaning that Hashem created something and it fell to some place and it's elevated by us interacting with it in a holy way. V'nechshav ki'ilu bara mechadash. And it's considered as if they were created anew. V'zeu ma she'amu rabotenu zichrono v'chan. This was said, blessed memory said regarding the verse. V'le'emo le'tzion ami ata. And say to Zion, my nation, that ata, that you, I guess, say to the Jewish people that you are my nation. Al tikrei ami, don't read it as ami, ela imi, but rather with me. Don't read it as my nation, but rather read it with me. B'shutafi, you are my partner. Hashem is saying you are my partner. Ma ana, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, borei shamayim v'aretz b'miluli. Who is the one, meaning me, Hashem, that creates the heavens and earth with my words? I want to make sure I said those things. As it said, with my words, as it said, Hashem created the heavens with His words. Af ataken, and so to you. V'chulei dahainu she'al yedei diburei Torah v'atfilah porim shemayim v'aretz chadashim. That through our words of speaking Torah and davening, we create new worlds and new heavens. Ki bevadai hu borei shemayim v'aretz b'diburei Torah v'tfilah ki chozer u'mechadesh u'metaken olamot anufulim kanal. Because so Hashem is creating everything all the time through speech. And when we speak to Hashem and we say, Hashem, I have this problem and I need your help. Or Hashem, thank you for helping me with this problem. Those words are creating new worlds in the same way that Hashem creates worlds with letters. And this is connected to what's written, that I gave peace in the earth. Ki me'haotziut nitale nitzatzot v'na'aseh shalom. But because through the, I guess, creation of worlds, the sparks are elevated and they create shalom. והניצצות מתחברים יחד ועולים מהארץ ששם הוא שהם נפלו. And by us making these choices of connecting to Hashem and through our davening and our learning Torah, we take the sparks that fell into the physical objects and we elevate them. ועל ידי זה נעשה אותיות ועולמות, and through this we make letters and worlds. שזהו עיקר תיקון הבריאה כנ"ל. This is the main purpose of creation, as mentioned above. על כן צריכים לדבר רק דיבורים קדושים, so you should only speak holy words, ולא דברים אחרים, and not other words, כדי להעלות הניצוצות הנ"ל, in order to raise up these sparks, לתקן כל העולמות, to fix all the worlds. Okay, so just to clarify that we do that through our davening. Let's just see, I made some notes for myself here, and I think I said them all. Okay. So, we'll continue next week with Zat Hashem. I'll have a short story for you. So there was this guy, I think his name was Yechezkel in the story. I'm always so desperate for these short stories. I just type into Google, short Hasidic story, and start going through them. And he was a famous, wealthy businessman. This was in the time of the Rebbe Rashab, who was the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, so I think we're talking late 1800s, mid to late 1800s. And he ended up being accused of embezzling money from the government and put in prison. That never happens in Russia, right? Never happened before. What was the guy's name? The guy who opposed Putin, Navalny. I watched the documentary about him. I have to say, I didn't think he was such a smart guy when he decided to go back to Russia, thinking that his lawyer in the law is going to protect him.
No, that's not what I was thinking. He knew he's gonna die.
Oh, wow.
I think
Okay.
he was very much worse, yes.
Well,
That's not the level of Christmas.
I don't know. Not for me. Okay. Anyhow, this guy was put in prison, and the whole Jewish community was shocked because he was this big veer, a big wealthy guy, and very successful, and had lots of connections in the government. And he was sentenced to 10 years in Siberia. And that's where you're from?
That's what I was sentenced to by God.
You were born in Siberia. And so the day before he's supposed to get on the train and go to Siberia, the prison warden comes to the rabbi of the town that they were in, and it was Reb David Tzvi Chen, if I'm not mistaken, who was the son of one of the famous Chabad Hasidim, Reb Peretz Chen, and he goes, and the warden says, the wealthy businessman who's in prison wants to see you. So the rabbi comes and sees him, and he says, Rabbi, I want to tell you a story that maybe you'll tell other people so they won't make the mistake that I made before I go off to Siberia. He said, not long ago, I was on a train, and in order to make business connections, I always buy first class tickets. So I was in the first class section, and I'm walking through the train, and I see there's a little cabin, and the door is open, and inside is a very holy-looking Jew, and I realize it's the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It was the Rebbe Rashab. And he was smoking. By the way, the Frierdiker Rebbe, just as a side note, the Frierdiker Rebbe was also a smoker. He was the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he went to his doctor, and the doctor told him, he offered him a cigarette, because at the time people used to think that smoking was healthy. That if you strengthen your body with putting tobacco in it, then you would be strong. So the doctor said to the Frierdiker Rebbe, I just learned there's some new research that tobacco smoking might be dangerous for your health. He said, but here, have a cigarette. And the Rebbe said, I don't smoke. And the doctor said, what do you mean? Just when you walked in, you were smoking. He said, now that you said it's dangerous for my health, I don't smoke. And from that point on, he didn't smoke. But his father, who was the Rebbe Rashab, was smoking. So he was sitting there smoking, and this wealthy businessman comes in, and he's just awed by the presence of the Rebbe. But the Rebbe offered him a cigarette, and it calmed him down. He said, where are you from? He tells him the town he's from, and he asks all about the community. And then he said, I know you're a businessman. He said he was a businessman. You don't know you're a businessman. And I think that you should get a contract to build the train through Siberia. That it's a good way to make money. It's a good business. I think you should do it. And he said, I didn't take the Rebbe's advice, even though I was offered the deal, because who wants to work in Siberia? And I have plenty of money, and I have plenty of businesses, and I don't need any of that. He said, here I am now sitting in prison. Tomorrow I'm getting on a train to go to Siberia. And I realized that the Rebbe was giving me a message, that my shlichut is in Siberia. And because I didn't take the Rebbe's advice and open a business deal, and I could have gone there as a wealthy man, I'm going there now as a prisoner. But because I got the message, I'm not going to despair. I know there must be Jews that I have to help. My mission in this world is obviously there, but tell other people my story so they don't make the same mistake. When the Rebbe gives you advice, you do it flat out. Hazat Hashem. I don't know the rest of the story. I'm hoping the guy made it and became wealthy again and who knows what. But the point being, the Rebbe gives you advice, so we take it. Let's see.